Get out. Yeah, you.
All right, lawyer. Lawyer. Lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. Had a little bit of a technical glitch. Not surprising. Why? Because, well, as we mentioned before, Frank is out of town. Frank, the hardest working man in show business, the guy that makes everything look so seamlessly easy. We're doing it on our own. Anyway, we have a great show for you today. So let's go ahead and see what is on the docket. First, the prosecutors and the court in the Brian Kohberger matter realized that, hey, this whole trial thing for death penalty stuff is going to get expensive. The Karen Reed trial goes dark this morning. Police are looking for a missing 8-month-old girl in Kentucky, and a horrific homicide investigation leads to a possible sex trafficking operation. Another teacher pleads guilty to, what could it possibly be? Come on, you can guess. And our dumb criminal of the day. So let's talk about it. All right. First, it is Friday, June 14th. And yes, we are heading into the weekend. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Remember, it's Father's Day. So if you haven't called your dad, you may want to do that. All right. Remember that, Father's Day. All right. Let's go ahead and open the record for June 14th, 2024. And first on the docket, what do we say here at Crime Talk? At the end of the day, it's always about the money, right? And when somebody says it's not about the money, guess what? Then you know it absolutely is. And I've also told you the story over the years where I was a young prosecutor and basically was told, when I asked, why would we spend this money on someone of this particular case? My boss looked at me and said, justice is expensive, and there's always money for justice. So don't fret it, ladies and gentlemen. They will find the money for the Brian Kohberger case. Somewhere they will find the money. So the Idaho court is asking for a huge budget increase in their next fiscal year to cover the costs associated with the Brian Kohberger case. Now, as you know, Brian Kohberger is charged with 4 counts of murder and 1 count of burglary regarding the deaths of Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Zaina Kernoble, and Ethan Chapin. They were all there at the University of Idaho. They were all students there, and they were stabbed to death in their rental home near the college campus in Moscow, Idaho on November 13th of 2022. Now, the Latah County District Court is seeking an increase in its trial expenses to $150,000 for the 2025 fiscal year. The court's 2024 budget for trial expenses, which included travel, lodging costs, miscellaneous expenses for jurors, and the bailiff, was a whopping $3,000. It sounds like we're taking a road trip, doesn't it? Sounds like they're preparing for a change of venue. Anyway, the court has requested to increase its jury supply budget from $3,500 to $50,000. And that budget request is to pay for the travel of costs of witnesses who will testify in court. $25,000, also significantly higher than the $3,500 allocated in the 2024 budget. Now, as you may recall, Kohberger's attorneys are seeking to move the trial, arguing that the fair and impartial jury cannot be found in Latah County due to the extensive inflammatory pretrial publicity and allegations made about Mr. Kohberger to the public by media that will be inadmissible at trial. Now, the small size of the community, the salacious nature of the alleged crime, and the severity of the charges, even if trial is moved to another venue, Latah County is going to have to reimburse the county where that trial takes place for juror costs. Now, the Latah County commissioners are expected to adopt the annual budget this summer. As you may recall, last year, prosecutors also asked for a bigger budget increase due to the Kohberger case. Bill Thompson requested $135,000 for trial expenses, an increase from their normal budget of about $15,000, which has been pretty steady throughout the years. The prosecutor did say that he and his office were trying to keep budget projections conservative, but we need to make sure that we don't cut corners on anything with regard to making sure that this case is handled properly. Now, the Karen Reed case also, well, it went dark this morning, kind of like our first cut here today. The video was returned later, but what happened was a TV cameraman accidentally, inadvertently filmed a juror, and that juror was actually ultimately going to be dismissed. And the judge was like, shut it off, shut it down. And they did. All right. Now, apparently, as the day starts, in every day there in the Judge Cannon's courtroom in the Karen Reed trial, there is a sidebar. The difference today was that there was a member of the jury there. Now, Cannon did not give a indication that the juror would be brought in, and the court TV camera feed was at a wide shot centered on Karen Reed when the court officer escorted the juror through the courtroom. The camera operator panned down quickly, but the image was still captured. Cannon called for a recess and then returned with another sidebar where 4 more jurors were individually brought to the sidebar for attorneys and Cannon to question them. The original juror returned to the sidebar several times, but when the jurors were brought in to begin the trial day, the juror was nowhere to be found. Interesting. Anyway, the judge allowed the TV feed, which is for all, it's a pool video, to resume after the break. And the first witness of the day was Jessica Hyde. She is a digital forensic expert, and Miss Hyde's testimony was pretty technical, and she described the 5 tools she used to analyze the phone of Jennifer McCabe regarding her search for how long to die in the cold. Remember that one? Yeah, kind of a big deal. Was it at 2 something or 6 something in the morning? Anyway, Miss McCabe was with Karen Reed and another woman named Carrie Roberts when they found O'Keefe's body in the front lawn at 34 Fairview Road in Canton, Massachusetts, about 6 a.m. on January 29th, 2022. Now, McCabe testified earlier that she made the search at 6:24 at the behest of Reed, while Reed was freaking out around O'Keefe's body. The defense claims the analysis points to her making that search at 2:27 a.m., several hours before O'Keefe's body was found, which they say backs up the defense claim that others killed Mr. O'Keefe and were assisted by the conspiracy of the others, including McCabe, to hide their deed and frame Miss Reed for the murder of Mr. O'Keefe. We'll have to see. Anyway, following the lengthy technical review, Hyde summarized her findings that the tab appears to have opened at 2:27 a.m. It was originally opened to a sports page, which was hockomocksports.com, which is what Ms. McCabe had previously testified to. And she said, I don't see any evidence that the term was searched prior to that 6:24 time, she added. Is there a possibility that the tab was closed? Absolutely. But that's not a deletion. In a very short cross-examination, Ms. Hyde said that she was giving her analysis parameters by the Massachusetts State Police, particularly Lieutenant Brian Tully, who heads the detective unit tasked with the O'Keefe homicide investigation, and that those parameters did not include all call logs. She said she would absolutely have been able to detect if a call was deleted before Prosecutor Adam Lally objected to the question. And why wouldn't they want that answered? I don't know. Anyway, what can you do? But wait and see. We will have to wait and see what is going to take place. That now Thursday began with the continued testimony of the Massachusetts State Police Lieutenant Brian Tully, who oversaw the detectives stationed at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office and who had jurisdiction over investigating the homicide of John O'Keefe and any other homicide in the county. Now, Lieutenant Tully's testimony went over cell phone tower data and surveillance footage, as well as earlier decisions his detectives made in the case. Now, the testimony offered a bit of a return to the normalcy following the 2-day testimony of Trooper Michael Proctor, who served as the lead investigator. Now, Proctor admitted to a series of inappropriate private texts while he was conducting his investigation, in which he called Miss Reed, among other things, a whack job, and hoped that she killed herself, and called her a very derogatory term that rhymes with punt. Yeah, but he was being objective, right? Yeah, I don't think so. The Karen Reed trial continues because it will never end, ladies and gentlemen. It is never going to end. Anyway, that would be a 2-week trial, maybe a 1-week trial for sure. That is about it. All right. There's a missing 8-month-old child in Kentucky, and no one just seems to be able to where to find her. So the Kentucky State Police have spent several hours throughout the week searching with cadaver dogs in Reynolds Station. And troopers were searching roughly 5 acres of woods for the missing 8-month-old named Maya Rudd. Now, the entrance of the wood is about 100 yards from the house where the missing girl lived with her parents, Tesla Tucker and Cage Rudd, and her grandfather, Ricky Smith. Now, as the parents are facing several charges, including drug trafficking, child abuse, abandonment of a minor, and engaging in organized crime. Now, the Kentucky State Police say Family Service removed 3 older children a little earlier in the year. Now, they say that Maya was born in October and her umbilical cord, easy for me to say, tested positive for meth. So the state police say that the intent was for her to join her siblings, but on May 30th, other family members notified them that they hadn't seen Maya, and she had been missing since late April. Now, during a search for her, the state police say they found the parents with meth and fentanyl pills in plain view at a local hotel. However, there was no child. Troopers say when asked, the parents told them that the Family Services took the baby. And when they double checked against those records, guess what? Kentucky Social Services had not taken child, which so therefore it's not true. Now, the police made a statement, said we have no evidence that in this case that the child is deceased, but we're also don't have anything to suggest that the child is alive either. At this point, she is a missing child, but there is no information that anyone has her and that they sold this child, that this child was abducted. That was according to the police. They don't have a whole lot more of information to give, but once they do, they will try to figure it out. Now, as of earlier in the week, Maya still had not been found, and troopers are bringing in special equipment to see if they can figure out whether Maya was taken or sold or has been deceased. Let's see here. If someone comes forward, they're not going to be in any trouble. If they have any information, they just want to know where Maya may be. The family deserves to know what's going on. The family, the community needs to know what's going on. Now, Maya's grandmother, Billy Smith, is facing a domestic assault charge, and Timothy Roach is also facing drug charges. Billy Smith bonded out on a $10,000 secured bond. What can you say, ladies and gentlemen? Kind of a mess there, right? Nobody knows where the child is at all. Very odd indeed. Somebody is not telling the truth. Somebody's not telling the truth. Hopefully somebody will come forward and say, hey, let me tell you something's not right here, because 8-month-old children just don't disappear like that. Somebody takes them, has harmed them, done something. All right. And just when you think things can't get even more a little depressing on a Friday, I've got more for you. Police in Jackson, Mississippi have apprehended Daniel Callahan. Now, the arrest follows the discovery of a 4-year-old by the name of Aaron Burnett's body shortly after Callahan was taken into custody. An alleged accomplice by the name of Victoria Cox was also arrested. Well, the Jackson, Mississippi police chief, Joseph Wade, condemned the suspects repeatedly, calling them a coward. The chief stated that Callahan murdered the mother, Callie Brunette, and her daughter, Erin. Now, the U.S. Marshals who are assisting discovered the child's body in a wooded area in South Jackson, which is approximately 30 yards behind a house, 3 hours north of the initial crime scene in Loranger, Louisiana, where Callie Brunette's body was found. The police officers described it as traumatic, even for officers to see. Even they've seen lots of stuff, but this was shocking. They said they didn't come to work to see this today. He added that technology, including a license plate reader, played a crucial role in locating the car and the missing children. And the chief described this scene as horrible and tragic. He says, you don't want to see that. As a police chief, he said, you don't want to see that. And as a father, to see this baby on the ground that has lost her life, he continued, this is an innocent 4-year-old child that has no longer with us because of the actions of a coward who took this child from her family, who killed her mother supposedly, and brought these children to Jackson, Mississippi, and took this child. Anyway, Callie Burnett's father found her murdered and her 2 daughters missing Thursday morning. The investigation quickly escalated to a search of the missing children. One of the girls was found injured but alive in a car close to where Aaron's body was discovered. She was taken to Jackson, Mississippi hospital. The grandparents are apparently taking over. Anyway, Chief Wade believes that the area where the girls were found was used for human trafficking. That's right, human trafficking. He says this location, the chief said this location has used, the chief said that this individual has used this location to traffic and abduct children. We want to ensure that he and anyone else involved are prosecuted for this act. He continued, he said that the crime scene would be meticulously investigated, saying we are going to work the crime scene with a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. So obviously the police are upset. They have reached out to the family, the surviving family members, and apparently it was quite horrific because they found cages. Okay. And the suspect, this Daniel Callahan, he was known to the family members. He wasn't a complete stranger, but he killed basically his friend and abducted the children. Crazy. And apparently the child that was found in the woods was in a crate. He described it as, the sheriff described it as human trafficking, ladies and gentlemen. This is beyond crazy. It can happen anywhere. It can happen anywhere. Next, another teacher arrested. And he's pled guilty. And if you've been watching the show for a while, what could he possibly been arrested for? That's right. Anyway, a former University City High School science teacher and the cross-country coach was arrested last year for trying to meet with a teenage girl for sex, and he had pled guilty yesterday in federal court of attempted enticement of a minor, Sean Stevenson. Well, he was seeking out to a young girl, and he was willing to pay $140 for this sex act for a woman that he believed was to be at least 16 years of age, no older. However, Mr. Stevenson was arrested at a bus stop, and he was met by undercover agents who had been communicating with him for several weeks. Now, Mr. Stevenson was arrested last October after he arrived at the prearranged meeting location with his $140 in his car. Surprised he didn't have a couple of wine coolers. Anyway, according to court records, the investigation into Mr. Stevenson, the teacher, began with the arrest of a pimp and a prostitute back in April of 2023. And after searching the prostitute's cell phone, investigators found text messages between the prostitute and this San Diego phone number that just happened to belong to the teacher, Mr. Stevenson. Anyway, the user of the San Diego cell number offered the woman a finder's fee payment if she could provide him with an underage prostitute. Well, needless to say, the United States attorney took action, and they alleged that Stevenson told the woman, the younger, the better, and just keep it in mind if you come across any high school age girls. I wonder why he's teaching at high school. Anyway, an undercover officer posed as the prostitute and in messages with Mr. Stevenson, and guess what? Offered him up a 16-year-old cousin for sex. Now, Mr. Stevenson's mom was at the arraignment, and she was quite upset. I'm sure she was. Mom, stay home, keep strong. He's going to prison. All right? He's going to prison. Anyway, Mr. Stevenson is set to be sentenced in September. Anyway, the U.S. Attorney's statement, they're always so good. They come up with the best little statements. And this is the one from the San Diego U.S. Attorney's Office. Instead of being a protector, this teacher became a predator. These despicable acts betray the trust of the students, parents, and the entire community. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you need to be aware of who is teaching your kids. Yes, not only what they're teaching your kids, but who is teaching your kids. Why do they want to be there? Is it because they have a great passion for teaching, maybe a particular subject? Or is it they really have a really good passion to being close to the people that they want to do inappropriate things with? Check them out. Good leadway, good segue into go to crimetalksearch.com so you can get that background subscription service. So if you think maybe my spidey senses are tingling and you just don't get a warm, fuzzy feeling about somebody that's coming into your life, well, if you have crimetalksearch.com, you can do unlimited number of background searches that you desire. You get a report literally generated while you wait. It can be emailed to you, and you will have it for future reference. You would be surprised what comes up. Most people just think it's not going to be out there. It's there, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out. We use it here in our practice on nearly a daily basis. crimetalksearch.com. And finally today, our dumb criminal of the day. Because after all, you only live once. All right. Police responded to a 9:10 a.m. in the morning tip about a couple in a Florida park. Anyway, with the police officer discovered a man allegedly performing a sex act on his girlfriend within the children's crawling tunnel at the Pocahontas Park in Vero Beach. Now, when the police officer arrived at the park, he reportedly observed Sharon Finley laying on her back face up with her jeans shorts pulled down around her ankles and her legs spread apart, with various intimate parts being exposed to the world. Anyway, Miss Finley had a companion, Jermaine Jackson, and he was allegedly on top of Miss Finley with his face buried deep into her crotch area. We'll just leave it right there, what he was doing, ladies and gentlemen. Asked what they were doing, Mr. Finley told the police officer they were just making out. Mr. Jackson, however, said, oh, no, he was eating something, and we'll let you fill in the blanks there. Anyway, adjacent to the playground crawling tunnel was a bottle of Gulf Crest vodka. Never heard of it. I'm sure it's fine alcohol. And 2 cans of Four Loko. Anyway, Miss Finley reportedly explained that we were both drinking and the Four Loko and the vodkas. And hey, you only live once. YOLO. Anyway, Miss Finley and Mr. Jackson were each arrested for possession of an open container. Because after all, it is 9:10 in the morning, right? And they were booked into the Indian River County Jail. Now, they did not have any sort of sexual indecent exposure, because guess what? No one else apparently saw them. So it's okay to have sex on the park, children's park, as long as no one sees you, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they say, right? It's only illegal if you get caught. Anyway, that's all we have for you today. We're making our way through these lives because Frank's not here, but he'll be back. He'll be back, I think, next Wednesday or Thursday. So bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you doing that. All right, that's all we have for you today. Have a wonderful weekend. And remember, the Constitution does matter. We'll see you next week.